Hello everyone, my name is Gönül and I am a student from Eskişehir Osman Gazi University and my department is English language teaching. So today we are gonna cover the topic which is called Introduction to Intercultural Studies, Intercultural Context. So let's move on to the first page. At first I want to mention that every information was taken from MOOC, from FutureLearn. It was made by University of Leeds, and the lead educator for this course is Dr. Hines Collins. Hines is a lecturer in intercultural studies at the University of Leeds. So if you want to learn about intercultural context, you can go to this course. So now let's start with intercultural contact from a historical perspective. Globalization has significantly increased the extent to which different people come into connect with each other. Intercultural contact is not a new phenomenon, but we are now more exposed than ever to increased mobility of global population. This means that conventional ways of viewing other cultures have been challenged. At first, we always in history want to contact with other peoples, other countries to learn about them. And nowadays it's more easier actually than whenever before. Because we have technology, we have internet, so everything is too easy to find. You can learn about other cultures, you can contact with other peoples through these digital gadgets actually. And also we can say that this intercultural contact was done before. Yeah, it was in the past and now, and it will be in the future too. So, but in past, contact with other cultures was not that easy than today. For this contact, there was wars, or when there is two neighbor countries, they get this intercultural contact with each other. But for example, between America and China, in the past, there wouldn't be any intercultural contact at all because there is a huge space between them. And there are in different continents. So let me ask you a question. What do you think may be the main risks associated with providing advice and guidance on how to interact with people based on their national identity? So there is some misunderstanding points actually, but how do you think we can associate them? So I want to hear your ideas. So let's find these ideas on the comments. So it's about national identity. So now let's move on to the next slide. So now let's look at the acculturation, adopting to different cultures. Hines said acculturation, the way in which people come to adopt the values and practices of another culture. Therefore, terms such as foreign culture or host culture are overly simplific and quite unhelpful. However, acculturation remains a productive concept for considering the adjustments, the affective and the psychological consequences, and the strain of cultural transition across space and time. So, acculturation is adapting to different cultures. Sometimes the people try to acculturate themselves. Sometimes it is the nations or the countries who wants to make everyone as themselves. And adapting to different cultures Yes, and in this picture we see the polar bears, and they're because of the global warming, their habitat is dangerous. So can we say that they can adapt to another habits, such as, for example, can they live in Ecuador? I don't think so. So sometimes this adaptation also can has negative sides and positive sides as well. Then we have U and the W curve. It's developed to describe the process of acculturation. How does this acculturation happens? The U curve and W curve, we can see here the U curve actually. At first we see the degree of adjustments. So Lisgard's U-curve model describes a rise and fall throughout the acculturation process. So there is some rises and falls through this acculturation. At first, let's see the first period, honeymoon period. It is the excitement of being in a new environment. So here is the degree is really high because you're excited. You are in a new environment, in a new culture. There are a lot of new people who you don't know. So you feel excited, you feel nervous, and so the degree of adjustment is higher. Then we see the crisis period. This has also been called the culture shock period. And you see it's on the fall, it's falling actually. So here there is some questions. Why am there? What's happening? And other things, because here you feel really upset and there is some challenges for you. Then we have adjustment period, feeling competent in the new environment. Okay, you're getting adapted to new culture slowly, step by step, so your adjustment is rising. Then the last period is biculturalism period, feeling well adjusted and confident in the new environment. So we can say that you are master after that. So you are really get adopted and acculturated. So here the degree is really it's on the top actually, and it's happening by the time. How you can see, at first we were in the honeymoon period, then there was culture shock period, then adjustment period, and finally mastery period. Now we can see the W curve. When you return to your home country, you may go through a further kind of adaptation process. The sociologists Gullahorn added this to Lisgard's original model, extending it to create the W-curve model. At first we are living home, yes, we get cultural shock, then we got acculturation. After that, we are returning to our home. Then we resolve culture shock again, and then recurrence with home culture. So it's always go like that. And there will be always rises and falls in acculturation, even if it's your own home. Then we have Yong-Hyun Kim's theory of cross-cultural adaptation. He sees the adaptation process in a spiral, where every new experience adds to personal growth. Here we see stress, adaptation. At first it goes with stress, then it rises to adaptation, then again stress, adaptation, stress, adaptation, and it takes time to grow with them. So it's the Yong-Hyun Kim's theory. Then we can say that whenever you face a situation of transition to a new environment where your established cultural patterns don't work, you will likely experience some level of stress and confusion. It really happens. These feelings can initially provoke defensive responses, but you may try to keep your existence habits and reject the new culture. In that way, you are rejecting the new culture. You do not try to adaptate, to acculturate. But in another way, we have with time and some effort, you begin to accommodate the new environment, leading to adaptation and growth. This growth may stop you seeing to opposition and binary cultures and instead see environments with substantial overlaps and commonalities. So you accept this adaptation. You can either reject or accept. Next, we have facilitating intercultural competence. Here, there are four main categories of learning about one's environment. We have Michael Byram's model. We call them as a CASA. At first, we start with key. It refers to knowledge. Knowledge about the society or environment, about the culture, society and cultures or countries' environment. Here you can see it's Turkey. Then we have A as a awareness of the need to critically evaluate all discourses of culture, because there's ethnicity, there are these people's beliefs, their tradition, their diversity, their nation. All these things can be such a new thing for you. So you can feel awareness. Then we have S, skills. Skills to interpret, discover, interact, and relate to a new environment. So finally, you are slowly but surely getting into the new environment. And attitudes. Attitudes that is open and accepting of differences. You are open to access and you are open for conversation. Then let's move on to the next slide. Analyzing intercultural contact, critical incidents and reach points. Critical incidents are interactions that challenge existing behavior or assumptions. They can be a useful tool for analyzing intercultural contact. And also we have critical incidents may be uncomfortable at times. So they can help us to better understand both ourselves and other cultures. So all these stages they will happen actually. So we must find critical incidents and reach points of this contact. Okay, then we have analyzing a critical incident, a useful framework. At first, we incident or observation. We describe what happens. It is a detailed description of the critical incident. It is important in this section not to speculate as to why the event happened. The critical incident can be a specific event that created a sense of a dissonance or disorientation. However, it could be an observation about curious behavior or language that you do not fully understand. For example, I walk back and forth on the carpet. Or in this picture you can see a lot of incidents that's happening at the same time. Then we have second, reaction. Reaction is the place where you describe how the incident or observation affected you. So try not to apportion blame here. Just describe your reaction and the impact it had. So it describes how it affected you. I was on fire with shame, for example. Then third, critical analysis. You attempt to deconstruct the incident or observation to analyze why it happened. In doing so, it's helpful to avoid culturalist explanations and instead consider multiple vantage points and motivations of the people involved. Then you can even refer to critical literature and theory to help you provide an explanation and reach a deeper understanding. So critical analysis is explain why you think it happened. Why did I think the rock was for walking on? Then last we have further questions and reflections. It gives you the opportunity to question your own conclusions, particularly any assumptions made too quickly. It will be equally valid to expand and ask broader questions or consider interesting future research questions. So further questions and reflections is question your own conclusions and consider future research questions. For example, what assumptions did I make? So here we have analyzing your own critical incident. I want you to tell me about your own critical incident and analyze them in these 4 steps. At first, incident or observation. Provide a detailed description of the critical incident. It's important not to speculate in this section as to why the event happened. Then, reaction. Describe how the incident or observation impacted you. Then, critical analysis. Attempt to deconstruct the incident or observation to analyze why it happened. And last but not least, further questions and reflections. Question your own conclusions or assumptions that you made too quickly. I really want to read them, so you can write it on the comments. And if you have questions, please let me know. So it was that was all. Thank you a lot for listening. So here are my comments on the MOOC. For example, I agree that this framework is helpful for analyzing critical incidents. At the critical situations, people may not think effectively, or they even can get stuck on one idea, sense, or incident. So to make a good decision, a good conclusion, and to take a lesson, this is the thing that should be. Another comment, this is true that there is a huge national identity. People generally relate to this general information and they don't care that everyone as a person have different identities and a country though. It's not true that Russians have a bear at home or that all Asians with slant eyes are Chinese. We should be careful with these suggestions and try to find the right information. And the last comment, yes, I do experience it. It was 8 years ago when I moved to Turkey. At first there was a strange feeling that made me stressed and upset. It was a new culture, even if we had nearly the same culture, because they are Turk and I'm Turk. New people, new places. All of them was strange for me. It took time to adapt. However, I must admit that I adapted very quickly. So this adaptation happened to me. Thank you a lot. Let me know if there are some questions or there are some parts that you do not understand. That was all for today. So thank you. See you.